Good morning. I do have 8:30 here, so we'll get started. What a day yesterday. So a lot of times when I trade, those of you that were in the room, you guys know we were kind of following these patterns. It was one of those days where it just the patterns played out almost perfectly to what we want, right? And so I like to leave the lines up because it shows a little bit of what my thoughts are, in the trading room. If you're not able to watch or hang out in the trading room, right, I want you all to see kind of how we played the day. So if you look here at the time on my screen here, we got 8:40 or so. So the market open was 9:30, right here, basically, right? So what ended up happening, although we were in this long, here, by the time the market opened, my concern was we rejected right here, right at the market open. We had that push south, right? So I immediately drew this line because this line kind of gave me a little bit of a index of if the trend is shifting or are we continuing south, right? We also had the 200 EMA like this coming down, and so that kind of gave us our guidance as well. So we did get the short call. This was a perfect play. So I actually was able to catch a little bit of a scalp here. I got caught out from this little push here. But as we were waiting for this, it was funny. We caught a nice little scalp here. I was doing some early it's kind of early patterns, just kind of showing and talking to people in the room. And immediately when I saw this rejection here and I saw this here, I was like, hey, let's draw this this parallel out because it almost kind of looked like a little mini bear flag starting. And so this is how we can do some scalping, right? Because what if you think about it with the SPY, you only need it to move 30 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents. That's big money, right? And so from the breakout from this bear flag, 445.82, it got all the way to 445.28, right? So that's still a big scalp if you can catch that. And so that played out almost perfectly, right? For something small. So if y'all remember in the room, I didn't trade this one specifically because I was talking about how it was a little bit early for me on a breakout, right? So I would have liked to have had it break out somewhere up here, but it was kind of cool to see how this actually broke down. It came up, retested, and it did fall, but we did find support. The zone tracker nailed that. This right here has been here pretty much since back here, right? And so we knew that this was a heavy support area. So once we saw this level here, we did see that double bottom forming. I said, okay, it failed to create the neckline of that. So once it had this rejection with this bearish engulfing candle, I had drawn this line, this was when I drew this line. So we had that rejection on the bear flag. And then we came down this way, we hit this. By the time I saw this one here come back up as support, we flipped these SMAs here. The moment I saw this come up here, I was kind of looking and I said, man, this might be like an inverse head and shoulder, or you can even call it a triple bottom. The shoulders are a little bit tighter than the head here, but either way, right, the same outcome. And so we were really watching that. I actually drew it out and then I erased it, but I'd actually drawn that out, right? And so when I saw this come down like this, I was telling them, we might get kind of a double oscillation shoulder, which we didn't. We found really, really high support. Once we got this right here to reject, I said, this looks to me like we have a clear neckline. So we had this neckline drawn like this. And then, as we were kind of playing this out, right, we ended up taking some calls down here from this. And so once you take that call from that third bottom hit, right, this was kind of this sort of potential falling channel is what I drew early here. These two white lines, it's a neckline plus a possible lower, right? So we might have this like kind of falling channel. That's what we were watching. So we did get the break above, which is what I wanted because that broke us out of the channel and it broke us past this neckline. Now, y'all know that the key is not necessarily the break above, but the retest. And so we did have that retest higher than the neckline. And that's where these big buy volume candles start to come in because people see that as that reversal, right? So you have that reversal. And how that kind of looks, kind of zooming out, right, is you had your your breakdown from the trend line. It did pull all the way back down. It tried to do a little inverse head and shoulder here. Couldn't break the neckline, turned into a rising wedge, broke. We have our triple bottom, which triple bottoms, guys, or inverse head and shoulder, either way you look at that, is just such a good reversal pattern. And you have the higher highs, higher lows that just continue through. So once we reclaim this support of 448.28, it kind of hung along here, and then we had an explosion past here. Now, why did we explode past here? Well, if you look, that trend line has been pretty solid, right? And so we can probably take it and move it just slightly up. I might have moved it while I was moving, but there's the trend line that's rejected so many times before, right? And so now that we've rejected off that, be careful on your puts, because it's hard to say, guys, because on one end we had a blow through the trend line that has not been able to break, and not only that, but look, we have a retest. So we have a short call, and we have a lot of double top action going on, saying that we should see some kind of push down. We have some localized bearish divergence through here, but overall you have a high and you have a lower high, and you have a high and a lower high. So overall it's not too bad on that short time frame. So where do we go from here? My plan, let's go to the 1 hour here, and let's just see where the indicators have us, and then we'll mute them. So we have been a little more bearish than bullish, not so much that we need a gap fill, but something to watch, right? For sure. Keep in mind also on the 1 hour, we have been in a short this whole time, and now we have flipped long. So we might want to be really careful on our puts today because of that. So also keep in mind, if you watch these wicks, let me mute this harmonic one just to give a little bit, we'll mute the gap fill one as well, just to give us a little bit easier view to look at. So now you have this trend line, right? So let's just let's true up our line just a little bit, make sure we got a nice solid touch on all these points. There it is. So now keep in mind, from back here, right, end of July, we have rejected all the way through, rejected, right? And these are big rejections. Now we have broken that. So now we're in this retest mode. So the interesting thing about today, though, is we are still below this 200 on the 1 hour. So the 200 is 451.09. I will tell you, if we flip that, that is when I'm okay to take a call. So I'm going to wait, market open. I don't suggest trading right away. I would wait to see if we get some pressure north. If we get that pressure north, this blue holds, the indicators continue to hold that long situation, then I would look for retests and capture those call scalps north. However, if we cannot break this, I don't care how all this stuff lines up, we still have gap fills that are showing. So if I was going to play this range, I'm watching this 200 on the 1 hour extremely close. So 451.11. If we flip this, I'm looking for the call situations. Don't just chase the one candle that breaks it. Let it break it, likely reject somewhere up here, 452 or so. Wait for that pullback, and then you can take those calls. Just be really patient with it, guys, because we do have news coming up, I think tomorrow, that's going to, so they're going to try to fake us out, right? There's going to be some traps. So, on one end, I believe that we have more downside to go. Y'all know that when you zoom out like this, this kind of blue line here is where I would have liked to have hit before we push back up. However, if you look at where we are right here, the key thing I want to look at is where we are here is almost exactly to where we were here. So it's kind of a big tell that if we can't break this EMA, then we may actually be on just a down descent, right, for that 443 range. So these are the levels I'm going to watch, because if we flip this one and it begins to pump, it's going to likely chase this 453, or even up to this side, 454. I would probably say if we get some pressure north, I would take this peak here as like kind of a local downtrend line, and I'll just pull it down to touch as many of these spots as you can, something like that. So if we flip this EMA, you're probably clear to take those calls up to about 453.64 or so. But be really careful in this range, right? Because anything around 453, 454 is likely going to have some kind of large rejection off of that. So, and this is all precedent of the fact that we can hold this trend line. Remember, we've had times where trend lines break and then they lose their ground. So if the market does open, you can see here again, this POC that we have on the 1 hour is working really well because it did break it, it retested it, one time here and another time here. So we are holding on that POC. So we're likely to range somewhere between 448 and 451 or so. Again, if you're above that 451, you're clear to take those calls up to here. If you do get anywhere in this range, I would be super careful taking those calls because you're likely to get a really good rejection off of that. Just be patient. Don't push anything. I would not recommend trading right away. I'll probably wait till about 9:45. Give it about 15 minutes to let the market come to me. When it comes to the SPY. So as far as the ATA goes, I'm probably going to run SARS on both of them, just because we are kind of in the middle of that range because we can go up, but we also can come back down. And also we have news tomorrow, right? So one way or another, we're going to set it that we will close all trades by the end of today, because I do not want to carry something over into news because it's just gambling. It could be amazing, could be extremely terrible. So we'll talk about that once we get over there. So let's talk briefly about some key ones I know some people like to trade. So Apple, we are finding that support around that 177. I believe this was that range that we talked about. Yeah. So this is the range that we're still holding. And so I'd mentioned to you guys before, with this bullish divergence and that support holding, you're good to take some call scalps. So a little bit of money, made there. We did flip the 21 SMA, and so we do have the 200 EMA that we can come up to. I would think that Apple is likely to continue to create higher highs, higher lows, up to maybe 187 or so. But keep in mind our true support that the Zone Tracker is calling, as well as the Harmonic Tracker Pro, is down here. So this could just be kind of like a support, dead cat bounce kind of. To push us up into this range. I would probably say be careful of like something like this, right? Because you have heavy support and you have what was heavy resistance. So somewhere in between 183 and 185, right? We could get a pretty decent rejection if we make it up that high. So just trust your indicators. You guys will be all right. So Google, the interesting thing, Google was one, remember we talked about I was actually bullish on. The reason why is because we were riding this 200, and so far that's played out well. I mean, we talked about that back here when it was like 127. Now it's up to 131. Google's in an interesting spot because, see, we drew this trend line where it couldn't break, and now it's actually broke it, right? So we might see an actual push up from Google. We can get as high as 136 or so. For that call. I would be really careful taking a put on Google as long as we're above this 21 SMA and this trend line. I would not take a put. There's nothing in here that says put quite yet, so you got to be patient if you want to ride it back down. You got the gap fills still blue on the top. We still got we're above the trend line. We're above the 21. I mean, nothing in there says it's safe to take a put, so just be really careful on that on Google. But glad to see that played out as expected. So Microsoft, if you remember, I was not quite as bullish on. I said I was actually more bearish on that. This was a few days ago, and so you figure Monday, we were here, so that actually played out really well. Hope some of y'all caught those puts. It's almost a $10 drop on those. The reason why, if we drew these trend lines, we did pump down. We rejected hard rejection. This is, let's see. So we're on this is Thursday the 3rd, so this is last week. You can see we drew this trend line here, and so far it's kind of fighting that trend line. It's not quite holding it as support, but it's not really quite necessarily resistance either. I would keep a close eye on this 21 SMA. No, that's the 200 EMA. I was like, man, the way it was angling down, it threw me off a little bit. 200 EMA, I would just watch this. As long as we're staying below this, if we hold this trend line, you can catch a nice little call scalp up, because we did flip blue up here. But this is an area I would watch. If we flip it, you can get a really good call. If we continue to reject off this, I would play that put there. So. Just gonna look briefly and see if there's anything. So Amazon, had just a massive push on the third, and it's just been kind of hanging. Just the thing about Amazon I would watch is, although this is kind of like a cliff hanging to where you think you would have a gap fill, what stands out to me the most on Amazon is you have this kind of falling wedge pattern, and so you have your pump, and then you got this falling wedge. So if this wedge continues to hold and it hangs out up top here, you're gonna have another breakout. It's just going to. So it's a little early to call that put. If you wanted to take a put, I would ensure all the indicators line up. Maybe look for some bearish divergence, things like that. I would be really cautious on that one, because that could explode north. Tesla is doing what we said it would do. Honestly, you can see we drew this on Monday. It's just been hanging in this little falling channel here. Heavy support in here, which is where it bounced. Like I said, I don't know. Something in me tells me that Tesla's got a nice little bounce that's going to be coming here. We could see one more oscillation down before that happens, but I feel like there's a bounce coming. So we might actually see a pullback to retest here around 238, which would be around the same thing as this bottom of this channel, and then see that push north to retest the 200, and then that would give us our falling channel breakout, and then that's where you'd see that push back up on Tesla. We are getting some bullish divergence. I'm gonna call it in shorter areas, because you have your low, you have your higher low, you have your low, your equal low, but the wick really was a little bit lower, so I don't know that I would be super strong on that being divergence. So now this area is a little bit different. That played out right there. So like I said, I would just watch this 200 around 259. If you want to play some calls, you can on this, but just be really careful. I would watch the range between 260 and 240, and as you see, we're at 250, so we're like right in the middle of that. So it's a dangerous range to play. Dixie doing what we thought. So we're just continuing to reject off of this trend line here. So I'm gonna delete this line here. But this is the 200 here on the 1 hour, so you're going to see this continue to come up. And this is where I was talking about that on this rejection, we may just kind of range until this squeezes. It looks like by Friday we'll be about here. So I would anticipate, if we don't get it, I would anticipate tomorrow, regardless one way or another, that the CPI is going to make this push north or push south one way or another. So we'll see that breakout. If we break above this trend line, it's likely to push up to 103.70. If we break below it, it's likely to push back down to retest the 101 or lower, depending on news, right? So and those that are new, watching this, remember the dollar's inverse. So if this goes up, markets go down. If this goes down, market goes up. So I haven't talked about the VIX much. Y'all know when we were down here, we had talked about the zone tracker and being at 13 or so. If you go to the daily on the VIX, I mean, you're talking, this is like 2019. I mean, our VIX got down to like 2019 levels, right? And so if you look at how long this held, right, but there was some just absolute explosions through this, and so I mean we were just like at the bottom. I mean, it was due to push up a little bit, but that little push is nothing compared to what we've had. So you can see that little pullback we've had in the market is just from this little movement here. I would suspect, if we flip this 200 on the VIX on the daily, which is around 18.5, and it holds as some kind of support, right, then we might see a pretty good push north on that. But again, the news is going to dictate that. So On the 1 hour, we are above the 200, so that is looking actually pretty good. Bullish wise, I would prefer to see it stay above the 21. Plus, we do have purple here showing that we're losing some steam. So we'll see. Today's going to be an interesting day because they're going to be trying to set the traps today to lock people in. So just as scalpers, that's amazing for us because we ride the wave up, we ride the wave down. We don't stay in those too long. So I would not suggest letting trades carry over to tomorrow unless you have like a 10 or 14 day contract on that and you have room to add to it. I was excited to talk about Bitcoin because, man, this played out literally perfect. I hope that Alvin and some of you others who are still running those big ATAs, you guys were able to catch all this, right? So one of the things we talked about was 28.8 was holding. It's still held here. I had mentioned if we flip this 200 EMA, then we're likely to come up for this retest here, which we did almost perfectly. So we actually rejected off of 30,200, which if you remember, I said we were going to come up for this wick or possibly something over here around 30,300 because of our zone tracker. So we did get that rejection off of that. Now, where do we go from here? So what I would watch on crypto is this 21 SMA. You can see that we're on the 1 hour, we're holding support throughout, and you can see that it's going to basically squeeze this resistance level. So we're either going to get a nasty kind of double top here on the 1 hour or the higher time frame that will push us below this 21, which then we're going to see a nice fall back down to 29.3, or the 21 is going to squeeze us through support and it's going to explode through this. Now, if we explode through this, keep in mind, when in zoom out, right? So you have heavy resistance around 30,400, 30,300. If you caught this long, awesome job. I would be very cautious taking a long right now because although we have room coming up, we're just getting into heavy resistance in through here. So now I do have this white line up through here. So if y'all remember, my first level of resistance was around 31.7. As far as if we get some kind of explosion through the news. But we have gotten this golden cross, which we have not had for like some time. It had briefly here, but again, remember, it wasn't sustainable. It went up right back down. This one right here is a nice hold of support. So this could push us through here, and then we can see a rejection point again somewhere around that 30,000. But again, we would have to flip 30,344. So if I'm trading this, I'm thinking actually more short right now on a scalping perspective, but I'm waiting for those indicators to line up to enable that short. If I want to continue long, I want to wait a little bit. Let's see how today plays out. Let's see if it pushes up to that 30,004 and then begins to hold support, because if this level here can flip as support versus resistance, then you're clear. You can ride that sucker back up to 31.8, really, right? But until that happens, we're at the top of the range. We're just like I said back here, we're just ranging between 28.8 and a little over 30,000. So technically we're at the top of the range, right? Until we break it. And so you can see just as we're talking, right, it's trying to push up, reject, push up, reject, push up, reject. But again, we have news. So I would not do heavy volume. I would be really cautious on what you're doing volume wise. Just be patient, right? Let the market come to you. So ATA. So yesterday was an interesting day. Let's talk about it. It was quite wild, actually. So we took a call here based on that, which although it's annoying, yes, we hit our stop loss, literally hit the stop loss in reverse. But the strategy itself didn't do too bad on placing this trade, because you had it allowed this fall to happen, and look at this, it hit the take profit line 1, 2, 3 times before losing it. It waited for this support level on this trend line here, which is not too bad, right? Heck, even myself, I would see this as a good potential scalp. But it just missed it, the mark, and then it barely missed our stop loss, tried to gain some support, came down, it hit the stop loss and flipped. The interesting thing here, though, and you guys running those ATAs, you guys know this. We run these tight stop losses purposely because yes, you do take that loss here, but you can see it immediately jump back in, right, at around the same place that it took that stop loss, and it took a win here. Now, this one win is not going to be equivalent to that loss, but look how aggressive it was at earning that back throughout the day. So we not only took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight wins right after that loss, and that's the objective is, at least at the end of the day, if you're net green and it can earn that back, then it's not so bad, right? And so I was really bummed to see that we got this because this would have just been a phenomenal day. So this put that a little bit of a damper in it, but I believe everybody still ended up net green through that. Now, again, we want to be really cautious today because if you look, we had this kind of rising channel up and then a collapse. And then now look what we have, another rising channel up. All right, so are we going to continue up, or are we gearing up for that collapse again? That's the question of the day that we're trying to find. And that's why, even if you look at, let's mute this. I like to do this sometimes, even though I don't do the TA on this much, because it makes it to where you can just see a little more clear without all the indicators. So you can see the pre is about 449.44, which is somewhere about here, right? You gotta take in the fact that the note that we have this right here, that if the market opens and we get that nudge up, right, then we just want to really focus on calls. However, if we reject here, right, we want to focus on puts and ride it back down to that 445. So I'm going to do a little more of a passive day today. I know people love when I do that, but look, better safe than sorry. And so what we're going to do, I may adjust it depending where we break while we're trading, but for now we'll do passive. So we're going to change that to the 2 days. We are going to go SARS. I'm not going to allow this to take a trade till 10. And I'm going to stop taking trades because of the news. We'll leave it for 2 right now, but I'm going to close trades at the end of the day. So 345, good, bad, or ugly, we're closing. Just so y'all know. And then we do have the stop loss in there, and let's just adjust this date. Close trade on chart. All right. And so that is going to be our call. And again, I may adjust this a little bit in the room today, depending on the market open. We have to be really careful, guys, with the news, because we don't want to get caught into something, because you could get a couple stop losses in a row, which that would not be good. Because our TA is great. I trust it, and I trust our strategies. But at the end of the day, news always trumps TA. So no matter what, and the only person that knows what news is coming and make millions off it is politicians. So let's trade here. Let's close the trade. Same thing. Close trade at day 345, 10, 2-day contract parabolic SARS. All right, and let's set that alert. Oop, that's not what I wanted. ETA. To make sure our alerts are in. There it is. We got our put, we got our call, we are dialed. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. What I want to see is the news tomorrow. So here's my perfect case scenarios, I guess. What I prefer. I prefer this actually breaking this trend line, hitting here, the news to come out more bullish-ish, have a break north to 352 or even higher, 357, because if we can get anywhere in this upper range here, I will be more aggressive on those puts. As long as we continue to hold here, or anywhere within this yellow line or green line, I'm going to try to be more aggressive on the calls. But I don't want to be more aggressive on the calls until I'm either lower through here or I break this trend line, right, to gain that support. So that's kind of how I plan. But we are still playing both ways, so we still can capture some really good trades today. So I'm going to leave this here. I don't like to do a lot of TA on this because it just kind of clouds it. I'm gonna add one more line too, because this just is standing out to me like a sore thumb. And so this could be the start of our little falling wedge here. So we could hit this, like I said, reject all the way back down to this 444 that I keep calling, and then come back up here and then have our explosion, right? It's very possible. Again, news will dictate that, so we will find out soon enough. But I hope that helps y'all understand that. Appreciate your time, and I'm gonna go ahead and stop it there. So we'll see you in the room. Give me about 15 minutes or so, and I'll open that up.